A big, ambitious new album has dropped from a young, all-female British band that seemingly came out of nowhere. There's a big buzz building around this band, kind of like what happened with Wet Leg a couple years ago. Is this buzz deserved, or is this just the typical music press hype machine making promises it can't keep? Hi everyone, I'm Paul Crayson, and you're watching Music Mentions. Today, I'm reviewing an album called Prelude to Ecstasy by a band called The Last Dinner Party. I like to dig a little more into an album with my reviews because this longer format is kind of what I look for as an obsessive music fan myself. I hope you guys dig this format as well. I'm going to be discussing a little bit about the band itself, cover some album notes, track listings, song lengths, album title and cover, some general album observations, dig into those individual songs, and then I'm going to wrap up with my overall thoughts and an album rating. So who is The Last Dinner Party? Well, this is a London-based band that formed back in 2021. This is an all-female band with 5 full-time members. 3 of the members met and became friends around the time they began university. They would frequent the local music scene and decided to form a band and recruited 2 additional members. They started writing songs during the pandemic and then started playing live towards the end of 2021. Their name was originally just The Dinner Party, and they said the name was inspired by the idea of a huge, debauched dinner party where people come together to celebrate with a hedonistic banquet. Sounds a little like inspiration from the Stones' Beggar's Banquet, if you ask me. They eventually changed their name to The Last Dinner Party to avoid confusion with the Kamasi, Washington hip-hop project simply called Dinner Party. Are you following all this? At their 3rd ever gig, a popular music scene videographer captured their performance, and the video generated a lot of interest from A&R and record label folks. The rest, as they say, is history. Their music has variously been described as indie rock, alternative rock, baroque pop. I would probably add that there's a slight operatic component here as well. The influences I hear are Kate Bush, Florence and the Machine, Queen, some of the more theatrical Bowie stuff, ABBA, and Susie and the Banshees. Their look harkens back to a Baroque or Romantic type era, elaborate, frilly, and well-considered outfits that support the majestic and theatrical feel of the music. Now, there was a lot of speculation about how this band was actually formed, with some people saying it was an artificially manufactured group, something like the Backstreet Boys. The cynics couldn't believe that this band weren't industry plants because of having some heavy hitters from Q Prime as their management and for getting an opening slot for the Rolling Stones at their Hyde Park concert back in 2022. There was a lot of money behind this young group. When addressing the speculation, the Island UK president, Louis Bloom, told Variety, "I can't reiterate this enough. This is their vision. They wrote all the songs. They decide how they look on stage. The whole thing is them, and we're just there to help bring their ideas to life." I don't think there's room for cynicism. This is a young band doing great things, and we should all celebrate that. This cynicism, likely born of some misogyny as well, eventually cooled as the band proved they knew what they were doing at their live shows. The band won 2 industry awards in 2023, including the Brits Rising Star Award and the BBC Radio 1 Sound of 2024 poll. On the album, all 5 members of the band have songwriting credits. They like to use a very collaborative approach to write their songs, so there's really no official central songwriter, but I suspect that Abigail may play this role based on some of my research. Let's take a look at the band members. First, we have Abigail Morris. She's 24 years old. She's the lead vocalist and also kind of the visual center of attention. Lizzie Mainland is 25 years old. She's the rhythm guitarist and a background vocalist. Emily Roberts, she's 25 years old. She's the lead guitarist and also plays some mandolin and flute on the album. Next, we have Aurora Nishevchi. I hope I didn't butcher her name. She is 27 years old. She's the keyboardist and also a background vocalist. Georgia Davies, she's 24 years old, and she's the band's bassist. And I also have to mention Rebecca Rayner. The Last Dinner Party do not have a permanent drummer as a member of the band. However, Rebecca, who's either 26 or 27 years old, has been the primary drummer used during their live shows. She's previously played with the 1975. She is credited on the album on one of the songs. Most of the drumming on the album was done by the producer, who I'll speak about here shortly. Let's jump over to some quick album notes. Prelude to Ecstasy was released on February 2nd of 2024. It's The Last Dinner Party's debut album, and it's on Island Records. It was produced and mixed by James Ford. He's a 45-year-old producer and musician that has produced music for many top-tier artists like Arctic Monkeys, Florence and the Machine, Jessie Ware, Foles, one of my absolute favorites, among many, many others. He also produced the fantastic Depeche Mode and Blur albums from back in 2023. He also was a member of the Last Shadow Puppets with Alex Turner and Miles Kane. As I mentioned, he plays drums on most of Prelude to Ecstasy. The album was recorded at Church Studios in Crouch Hill, London in January of 2023. There was an orchestra that was used on the recording, but at the time of this video, I haven't been able to determine what the orchestra's name is. Let's take a quick peek at the track listing and the lengths. There are 12 songs on this album. Mirror, the final song, is also the longest song at 5 minutes and 24 seconds. A song called Gajua is the shortest at 1 minute and 29 seconds. Most of these songs are in that 3 to 4 minutes range, and the total album length is just a little bit over 41 minutes. Now, switching over to the album title and the cover. The album title is Prelude to Ecstasy and is also the name of the first song. The title alludes to the aspirational nature and the ambition of this music. They hope to take us on an ecstatic musical journey. It's a gutsy and self-confident title that raises the bar for what the listeners should be expecting. Note that the band's name and album title are not included on the cover itself, another sign of a band with self-assurance and confidence. The album cover features a portrait photograph of the band looking serious and dressed in frilly, ornate, and retro Baroque-style clothing. Abigail is at the center with her huge dress scattered in front of her while the band members are posed above her. This picture reminded me a little bit of Heart's Little Queen cover from the late 70s. The portrait leans across an old, cracked, and weathered concrete wall, and it appears to sit atop a stone fireplace mantel. The mantel is covered in flowers and a few scattered candles and some books off to the right. It almost acts like a type of shrine to this band. The cover's colors are subdued, except for some more vibrant color splashes from the flowers on the left and right, and Aurora's red dress. Brown, bronze, and beige colors seem to dominate. The cover art is certainly in alignment with the feel and the vibe of the music. Jumping over to some general album observations, the recording quality is wonderful, even if at times it sounds just a tad compressed. This is a big sounding record due to the use of the orchestra, and it will really fill out your listening space. The overall vibe of the record is one of high drama and musical theater. There are 5 songs that were released as singles prior to the album's release. And with that, Let's dig into the songs themselves. Prelude to Ecstasy. This lead-off tune is a short instrumental classical piece played by the orchestra that's meant to prepare us for what's to come. It's a minor key and ominous piece of music that would not be out of place at the start of an epic movie. I may be reaching here, but I almost got a John Williams Star Wars music vibe from it. I also thought of the prelude in West Side Story. It's certainly cinematic and huge in scope, and I think that's part of the band's intention here. It takes some balls, please pardon the irony, to start off your debut album with something like this. Think about it this way. There are a lot of people that have never heard your music before, but they heard you're an indie rock band of sorts, and this is the first thing they hear. How many of these people, after hearing a minute of the song, will just skip to another album because they're just not into the whole classical thing? It takes a lot of confidence to start this album this way. It not only tells me that this was important to the band, but it also tells us how much Island Records believed in the band's vision and the album. Song number 2 is called Burn Alive. This is the first proper song on the record and is again in a minor key. Abigail has said that this was the first song that the band ever wrote. The verses are haunting with simple repeating guitar lines and some sustained notes. Abigail's vocals are delivered with seriousness and self-assuredness, also delivered very dramatically. I get a real Florence and the Machine undertone from this tune. The drums by James Ford during the choruses are a highlight here with their galloping heart-like urgency. The bass also sounds great here. Everything builds towards a huge climactic outro with marvelous overdubbed vocals. The song is broken up by a very spare bridge where Abigail's voice is placed far back in the mix as discordant and muted sounds build tension quietly around her. Let's take a look at the chorus. I am not the girl I set out to be. Let me make my grief a commodity. Do what I can to survive. There is candle wax melting in my veins. So I keep myself standing in your flames. Burn, burn me alive. Abigail has said that this song was written shortly after her father passed, and how she could, somewhat sarcastically, make her grief a commodity. To translate that experience, that pain, into money, a slightly cynical take on an artist's work. In these lyrics, she is singing about the pain and is wanting to embrace it closer, and in the process, it will eventually burn her alive. This is an eerie, dark, and moody song with great melodies, a great arrangement, and a great feel to it. Song number 3 is called Caesar on a TV Screen. This was the 5th single. The mood picks up with this one. Abigail is singing in an even more dramatic and over-the-top way than on Burn Alive. Her British accent peeks out here and there during the verses, adding an almost theatrical properness to her vocal delivery. You also get to really hear that she's a killer singer with a delicate, controlled vibrato that doesn't quite veer into silly Mariah Carey oversinging territory. Although the orchestra is also used on Burn Alive, on Caesar it really comes alive, adding a lot of bombast to the choruses. There are 3 distinct parts to the song, with the verses, pre-choruses, and the choruses, all having a slightly different feel and melody. The verses are introspective and moody. The major key pre-choruses, where she's singing about Leningrad, have an almost poppy feel to them. And then the choruses are these huge and dramatic flourishes. Let's take a look at the first verse. Every night when we say goodbye, I know that I can see myself as a man. When I put on that suit, I don't have to stay mute. I can talk all the time because my shoulders are wide. Abigail is tackling some male-female inequality with this song, this verse alluding that if she were a man with a suit and wide shoulders, she would actually be listened to. The rest of the lyrics carry this theme over to her being a powerful Caesar on a TV screen, and then, only then, will everyone love her. This song takes a lot of zigs and zags musically, but it maintains an over-the-top kind of coherence. It proudly wears its dramatic and theatrical nature on its sleeve. You could end up rolling your eyes or enjoy the song for the excesses it clearly embraces. Me, I dig it, but I'm more partial to Burn Alive at this point in the album, since Caesar borders on a little bit of campiness. Track number 4 is called The Feminine Urge. This track is more of what I'd classify as a traditional rock song, although Abigail's singing is again serious, floaty, and slightly ostentatious. There's a strong Kate Bush aura about this one. The orchestra strings add majesty here. The melodies are outstanding and vaguely familiar, but I couldn't quite peg anything other than the song sounding a bit like something off of Party Traumatic album from a band called Black Kids. By the way, check this album out if you've never heard it. Simply fantastic. The highlight for me, undoubtedly, is Abigail's singing, which is some of the absolute best on the album, especially what appears to be a post-chorus section when she unexpectedly soars into a stunningly gorgeous melody. The hairs on my arms stood up when I listened to this. It's seriously that good. The outro is also fantastic, as this is another song that builds up and explodes at the end. Here are some lyrics from that post-chorus section I mentioned. Oh, ballerina, bend under the weight of it all. Ain't it fun to hold the world in your hands? Do you feel like a man when I can't talk back? Do you want me or do you want control? Failure to commit to the role, I admit, was a failure you achieved on your own. Do you want me to care when you just disappear? I can't win them all. I can't win them all. The subject matter in this track appears to address traditional male and female roles and Abigail's struggle with that. The traditional female role being that of a healer and a nurturer. The lyrics here are really, really good in the context of the melody. That line, do you want me or do you want control, suggests that she doesn't have tolerance with her love interest wanting to be in a controlling position. This song is melodically brilliant and memorable, and the production is just exemplary, one of the best songs on this album. Song number 5 is called On Your Side. This was the 4th single. We shift gears here to a more contemplative mode and a slower tempo. There's still some theatricality here for sure, but don't hold this against me. I could actually hear this as a good old Coldplay song, you know, before they went all neon colors and happy. The song starts with Abigail singing over some gentle piano before the drums and other instruments come in. Again, her singing here is wonderful. There's a haunting drone-like sound during the choruses that almost sounds like a theremin, you know, that signature outer spacey instrument from Good Vibrations. The last quarter of the song actually features this sound, as the song drifts off into an almost ambient music zone. Let's take a look at that second verse. Back to the olive mount you lead me to. The wind was blinding, so I clung to you, and you smiled so sweetly as you threw me down the rocks into the seaweed. You thought that I could fly. Abigail has said that this was one of the more intimate songs on the album and that it's about a toxic relationship. Looking at these lyrics, it's easy to confirm this. The olive mount suggests some religious imagery as well, since in the Bible, the olive mount is where Jesus prayed before Judas betrayed him. Another beautiful song, a memorable and dramatic slow burner that succeeds with flying colors. Song number 6 is Beautiful Boy. We slowed down some more here, especially at the beginning of this track. A lot of the song plays out like a lullaby, But then during the chorus, the song lifts up with a flurry of instrumentation and background vocals until the song ends on a quiet, whispered lyrics just like the start. The most interesting part of this song for me is the subject matter. Let's take a look at the lyrics from the first verse. The best a boy can ever be is pretty. He launches ships on which he sails to safety. And what I'm feeling isn't lust, it's envy. He has the earth, makes love to her to spite me. Abigail has said that this song was about a good-looking guy friend of hers that went on a vacation and lost his phone but was able to get by successfully just because of his handsomeness. She's envious of this power as she believes that good-looking men have an advantage in the world over beautiful women since women are more physically vulnerable, regardless of their looks. For what it's worth, I don't really agree with this assumption. I think the most powerful people in the world are beautiful women, since they can easily manipulate men, even good-looking men, into doing anything for them. But that's just my old white guy take on this subject, so there you go. Outside of the Prelude song, this one is just okay for me. The singing and the production are excellent, but it's just not as strong as most of the other songs on this record. Song number 7 is called Gjua. This is a short 1.5-minute song that is sung in Albanian by Aurora, who I believe is Albanian. You can consider this as a prelude to Ecstasy 2, since it starts the second side of the album and serves as a musical interlude of sorts. It's mostly notable for the voices, which are church choir-like and beautiful. Otherwise, not much else to say about this one, other than it works best in the context of a whole album listen. Otherwise, I imagine a lot of folks will just be skipping this one. Song number 8 is Sinner. This was the second single. This song starts off sounding like a slowed-down Super Trooper by ABBA. Tell me I'm wrong. By the way, Abigail has said in an interview that the ABBA influence on Dinner Party is lost on her and she can't hear it. But obviously other people have heard this influence since she's addressing it. This is a dynamic song, like most of the songs on Prelude to Ecstasy, with quieter and rockier sections. The background vocals are fabulous, as is the arrangement. It's terribly catchy, especially with these simple guitar lines that really jump out of the speakers. Very Blur-like, these guitar lines. Think the song Girls and Boys. It's a unique sound not found anywhere else on the album. This song was supposedly written by Lizzie, the rhythm guitarist. Let's take a look at that first verse. I wish I knew you back when we were both small. I wish I knew you, but I have gotten too tall. I wish I knew you when touch was innocent. I wish I knew you before it felt like a sin. There's a theme of queer love here that Lizzie has confirmed. Supposedly, she was brought up as a Catholic, and of course, homosexuality is a sin for Catholics. She said she grew up in a small town where this kind of love was not well tolerated. It's one of the stronger songs on the album for me, and I think it's because of the energy of those guitar lines. I love them. It's also super melodic. Song number 9 is My Lady of Mercy. This was the third single. The song starts off like an 80s tune with some hand claps and a chorus effect guitar before suddenly throwing the whole orchestra and every other instrument that was available in the studio into the chorus. The vocals are again in choir mode, but holy shit, you get it from all sides with this heavy chorus. This is another song with two distinct parts, the soft 80s poppy one during the verses, and then those huge bombastic choruses. There's also a bridge that slowly builds up to a crescendo chorus. Let's look at the third verse. I want to take your picture. Picture me in bed under your crucifix. Under your long black hair, I'll see you on Sunday. I want to make them sing. Ah. There are a lot of religious references here with the crucifix and mention of Sunday when Catholic Mass is traditionally held, and that line about wanting to make them sing implies that it's singing in a church choir. This is easily the biggest, most ambitious song on the album. It's over the top, majestic, and I love it. Song number 10 is Portrait of a Dead Girl, another very dramatic mid-tempo song that starts off fairly chill, almost waltzy, and ramps up into another massive crescendo, only interrupted briefly with a spare, almost Pink Floyd-y type of guitar solo. The outro is again a big sounding choir. The singing is again fantastic. It's beautifully arranged and the orchestra really shines here. You can really hear Abigail's British accent come through as she sings with intense theatricality again. Let's have a peek at the first verse. When you laid like a wolf with your head on my lap, I felt like one of those portraits of women protected by a beast on a chain. They look so safe, a guard dog built just for her. If only she knew that with one wrong move, he'll turn around and tear off her hands. This is another song about male and female roles and possibly another toxic relationship. The lyrics here imply a female nervousness as she allows a man to get close to her, even knowing that he has the potential to destroy her. This track is unusual in its overall arrangement. It doesn't quite sound like anything else on the album, but there are some traditional elements as well. Another outstanding song on Prelude to Ecstasy. Song number 11 is Nothing Matters. This was the first single, and when the buzz on Dinner Party really started gaining traction. This was back in April of 2023 when that single was released. If you knew about this band before the album dropped, then most likely you've heard this song. For some reason, it eluded me all year. Guess I can't be in front of everything that's happening in the vast music verse. This is why I love comments from my viewers to alert me to the good stuff that I might miss. Anyway, the start of this one also reminded me of ABBA. I can't help it. This track is one of the more traditional rock songs on the record, at least in terms of composition. The orchestra is again featured, but it's the guitar that I really like, especially since we get a simple but tasty guitar solo during an instrumental section. Hooray for guitar solos. Abigail's vocal stylings are again delivered in a theatrical voice. Let's take a look at the lyrics in this eye-raising chorus. I'm just going to let you guys read the lyrics so I don't have to sound kind of silly doing it. Abigail said that she rarely writes love songs, but that this was an exception and was written for an old boyfriend of hers. It's definitely the most interesting chorus on the album, obviously with its untethered use of the F word, but also because it's damn catchy, like really catchy. I suspect that the band's insistence to use the F word so frequently in this song is also a type of female empowerment flex. By the way, they did release a sanitized version of this song for those of you that can't handle the F-bombs. Personally, I say fuck censorship, so bring it on, Dinner Party ladies. This is a standout track and highly melodic and memorable. Another favorite of mine. And we get to the last song, song number 12, Mirror. This song slows things down to an almost dirge-like pace, and it allows us to catch our breath after Nothing Matters. The orchestra is featured again, really beautiful. It's a very cinematic type of sound. Abigail's vocals are softer here, almost like a torch song singer. It's a very moody piece and feels almost like a come-down song after a long night of partying. We do build up to a crescendo towards the end again, and we get another guitar solo. The tail end of the song is a cool little orchestral coda that adds a finality to the album. Here are the lyrics from the chorus. I'm just a mirror, break my glass to fix your heart. I'm just a mirror, pretty glass, an empty heart. I'm just a mirror, I don't exist without your gaze. My interpretation of what this song is about is that it's a relationship song where Abigail feels that she only exists as far as her love interest focuses his attention on her. It may be a bit of a stretch, but this is my best guess. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any better interpretation of these lyrics. It's a whisper of a song compared to the rest of the album, but is also a very nice change of tempo, and it's a perfect finish to the overall record. So what do I think about this album overall? Well, first, let me thank one of my viewers, whose name is Mark, for leaving a comment on the Smile review video telling me to check out this band. Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it. I suspect that this album will divide some people. Those that feel it's just pretentious or too mature for women of such a young age to be making, especially for a debut album. But then there are those that will buy into all the pomp and circumstance and high concepts and sheer audaciousness of it all. You can place me firmly in this latter category. I'm sold. I'm readily accepting an invitation to the last dinner party. This is an astonishing record, easily one of the best so far in 2024. At the end of the day, it's about the songs for me, and they created some great and memorable ones with killer melodies, progressions, and arrangements and performances. The album also works great as a whole album listen. It's well sequenced and should be listened to from front to back to get the full experience. I must also mention that Abigail Morris is a young superstar in the making, and I suspect that we'll be paying a lot of attention to her in the years to come. This lady can sing with high emotion and power and control. She has a lovely voice, particularly when she pushes those higher registers. Simply wonderful. I'm giving this album a pretty good rating of 9 out of 10. It's really, really, really good. Now, your mileage may vary. I know a lot of you guys out there are rockers. I'd love to hear from you guys. What's your take on this album? Is this just a lot of hype? Did I mishear this album? Do you absolutely hate it? Let loose in the comments below. All right? Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. As usual, thank you for watching this video. It was another long one. You stuck with me till the end. Give me a like, hit the subscribe and the notifications. I'll catch you cats next time.